Hi, and thank you for joining me on my Instagram strategy for TED Talks. So TED Talks is, for those of you who don't know, an idea sharing platform. They host global events, they host online videos, and the premise is that ideas are worth spreading. Their presence on Instagram is pretty large. They've been on the account for many years now. They have over 1,000 posts, almost 2,000. They post on a regular basis, and most of the posts will get somewhere in the thousands to tens of thousands of likes, and anywhere from like dozens to even 100 comments. Their reach is pretty large. It's 7.1 million, which is pretty impressive, but they have been on the platform for a long time. One thing I will say is that their comments tend to have bots, but we'll get to that later. So as for the static posts and photos, a lot of the times it's infographics or visual aesthetics. I'd say their static feed posts are about like 10 to 20% of their content. Most of their content these days focuses on real content, videos. They do clips from their longer TED Talks. For those of you who don't know, TED Talks are anywhere from like 10 minutes to 20 minutes, usually in that ballpark. For the reels, they'll take maybe 30-second clips out of those talks of the most interesting or intense parts. And they'll post those on their Instagram story with call to actions in the comments to get the audience to look more into that discussion. Their stories are usually social media trends, upcoming events, call to actions, all of the standard story stuff, and they would post on their story daily, sometimes multiple times a day. So some strengths of TED, they have a really memorable message, ideas worth spreading. It's sweet, short, simple, recognizable. They have a great color scheme. It's just red, black, and white. For their TED Talks, the actual videos, a lot of times they have this dark blue neonish background. It's very millennial, it's very classy. It looks professional. So it gives them a good reputation. They also have a global reach. They have an audience all around the world. They host in-person events all over the world. Some of their weaknesses, I would say, are the barrier to entry. It's unknown exactly how to get an invite to one of these in-person events. And then they have kind of gained an elitist reputation because a lot of their audience is those with masters and PhDs, a lot of academia. They also have a very decentralized approach. It's not just TED Talks. There's TED Ed. There's global TED. There's a lot of different branches of TED that are kind of split, and they don't have one centralized leader, which can lead to some confusion for audience members. But it's not all bad. They have a lot of opportunities. Their global reach really encourages participation. And while sometimes some may see them as elitist, others may see them as inspiring. What's great about TED is they're on YouTube. Anyone can watch them at any time as long as you have internet connection. And they have a great opportunity to connect with a new generation of people. Some threats I see, they have a very progressive audience, which that in itself isn't a bad thing, but it can lead to echo chambers and groupthink, which is a big problem in social media overall. So their competitors, I would say, are Bloomberg Ideas and Big Think. Bloomberg Ideas is more of a traditional media company. TED is a grassroots independent organization, so they do differ in that way. But Bloomberg Ideas does host similar in-person meetings, and they have a similar style on Instagram. Think Big is the most similar to TED Talks. They're very, how do I put this? They're very popular in the same way. They have YouTube educational content. They post infographics, short clips of their talks. They're very similar in that way. I will say that Big Think is a little more geared towards younger audiences, which is what we're going to try to do with TED today. So let's diagnose their current and target audiences. So their current audience is millennial. It's very progressive, it's college educated, it's academic. We're talking PhDs, masters, we're talking people who know a lot about philosophy, a lot about climate, health, psychology. They're big thinkers, streamers. I would say upper to middle class income, at least those who are like in the loyalty advocacy stage. And they do have a home base in the US and Canada. So a lot of their audience is North American. The target audience is a little different. It's Gen Z or younger age demographics. We want to target people outside of the US and Canada because the world is global, especially with the internet and the digital age. It's very important to have that reach from every corner of the world. We're also targeting activists, people who are willing to step up and think big. So the perfect example of this is Zeth, a non-binary persona. They are open-minded, they're an activist. They spend a lot of time on TikTok, and if they're not on TikTok, they're on Instagram Reels. And that's what a lot of our strategy today is going to focus on, those Reels. They can be persuaded by influencers, and while they're very passionate about their ideas and willing to take time to pursue them. So the goals. As I said earlier, a lot of comments on their posts are populated by bots, which isn't something we love. So one thing we want to do is we want to increase organic interactions on Reels and short form content by 30% over the span of the month by prioritizing algorithm optimized content. And what that basically means to me is we want to create content that is interactable. We want to not only be posting these short clips of talks, but we also want to be encouraging people to read the caption. We want to leave them hanging in the video. We don't want to give them the full picture in the video because we want them to read that caption where the CTA to comment is. And it's those comments, those likes, those shares that's going to get it really big. So what's our strategy? Our strategy is really focusing on those short form Reels and videos. We really want to be posting daily, and we don't want to just be posting clips from videos because that can get old fast, that can get stale. We want to mix it up, keep them guessing, maybe include an influencer outside of just our talkers. We want to keep it classy. Posting multiple times a day on the story with call to actions is also a great strategy. Every time we post a reel, we want to get that on the story so that people can know that we posted that. If it's not showing up in the video organically, at least on the stories, that's something that everyone can click on. And we want to not only link that, but in the next story, we want to ask them what they thought about it. We want to poll them. We want to ask them questions. We want to get them engaged. We want to make sure they're watching it. So what else we can share besides our own content? We can share ideas from great thinkers. We at TED have like the privilege of all these great speakers, and it would be a shame to not share what content that they're posting on our account, because a lot of times they'll just repost what we've posted of them to say thanks. And that's a great way to share followers and create a community and show that TED isn't just about the views. They want to support their thinkers. Hot topics like new climate proposals and news stories are always a great idea too. So some conversations we can join. I thought Think Big was funny because it's our competitor. Don't think there's anything wrong with piggybacking on that. Educational content is also great. TED is all about ideas worth spreading, and that's education. Popular terms related to the post are also a no-brainer. Let's stick with education. Like, if we're talking about language learning, you always hashtag Duolingo. So another important thing they can do is replying to comments on their posts. So if someone is brave enough to share that comment, it's going to create such a community feel if we're replying to all of those comments, commenting on other influencers' posts, because when we look through the comments and we see other big brands, especially if it's funny, it's memorable, it helps us feel less like this is a brand trying to make money and more like this is a real brand with a real message. And then asking the questions and pulling on the story again, because that can encourage DMs, that can encourage more engagement. So in conclusion, I think it's really important that we target that younger audience. And Reels is the way to do that. The younger audiences are the ones who are going to be the activists of tomorrow. They're the ones with the big ideas. They're pursuing the masters, the PhDs. They're setting foot into the world, and short form content is the best way to engage with them. And by increasing our engagement in the short term content sector, we can increase our engagement and brands credibility overall. By getting all those comments, those likes, those shares, we're going to eliminate the issues with bots. The algorithm's going to favor us, and that 30% can turn into 60 in 6 months. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.